Well, hi folks, and welcome to the 6th video in my Getting Started series for the game B-17 Flying Fortress the Mighty 8th. Now in this video, I'm going to be going through training mission number 3, and that is to feather and restart an engine. Now, in a similar vein to my prior videos on the training missions, I'll be giving 3 examples of increasing difficulty for this particular training mission. The first example will be from an external viewpoint, and we'll be utilizing the shortcut keys to shut down, feather and restart an engine. And that's suitable for when you're playing the game on a general difficulty setting of low or medium. The second example will now be from an internal viewpoint, again utilizing the shortcut keys to shut down, feather and restart an engine. But this time we'll be filling in some of the gaps in the procedure using some of the instrument controls available from the pilot and co-pilot views. Again, this one is suitable for when you're playing the game on a general difficulty setting of low or medium. The third example will again be from an internal viewpoint, but this time we'll be utilizing the instrument controls available to the pilot and co-pilot and going through a stepwise manual procedure. Now this example is suitable when you're playing the game on a general difficulty setting of medium or high. So to start the training mission, we just click on the new game panel here and then the switch in the lower right. Click on choose a training mission on the right there and then click on the right hand continue switch. And then we select training mission number 3, feathering / restarting an engine. And as it says down here, in this mission you start above the airbase at altitude. You must feather engine number 1 and restart it, following the checklists, all while maintaining speed and altitude. Should you drop below 1,000 feet, the mission is aborted. So, without further ado, let's move on to the first example. So, in this simplest version of the training mission, I'm just going to do everything from the external view. So I'm going to press the F2 key to take us to the external view, and then just move the camera around by holding down my left mouse button and dragging the mouse around a bit, and then right-clicking and pushing forward to zoom in a little. Now, in this first and easiest of the training mission examples, I'm going to do everything using just the keyboard shortcuts. Now, this does actually mean a few critical steps are missing, and I'll cover those in the second example. So please do watch the second example to at least become familiar with the steps that you should do in conjunction with these keyboard shortcuts. But for now, I'm just going to keep this example simple by using the keyboard shortcuts alone. So first of all, we need to go into manual mode, but again, before we do that, we want to make sure that our throttle control is in a similar position to the current setting of the AI. And in this training mission example, it's around the 2/3 mark, so around 65–66%. So my throttle's roughly in that position, so I'm just going to press the M key to go into manual mode and pull back on my joystick slightly to maintain current altitude. So what we need to do first of all is to shut down the engine. And if you remember, the keyboard shortcuts to control the engines are Q, W, E and R, and they're corresponding to engine 1, 2, 3 and 4. And this training mission is specific to engine 1, so we need to use the Q key to control the engine number 1. And the other keys, A, S and D, are used to start, stop and feather an engine correspondingly to those keys, A, S and D. So we're going to shut down an engine first of all, so we want to do Q followed by S, so I'll just do that right now. Q, S. And then the crew will actually run through the shutdown procedure for an engine. And I'm having to push my joystick now to the right to compensate for the loss of power on the left hand side. There we go. So the engine's now shut down, but it is windmilling and it's causing drag on that side of the plane. So we now need to feather it by doing Q followed by D. There we go. That engine is now feathered. So now we've completed the first half of the training mission. We need to basically reverse the process to unfeather or defeather that engine and restart that engine. So first of all, we're going to do Q and D again. So that has unfeathered that engine and it's now just windmilling by itself. And then we need to tell the crew to start that engine back up by pressing Q and then A.
Ignition to both. Turbos off.
And then this just runs through the standard startup
Throttle
procedure for an engine.
1000 RPM. Mixture auto reg.
There we go, it's beginning to catch. There we go. Full RPM. So the training mission is complete. Excellent. Let's just check the mission debriefing. And excellent. So congratulations, you have displayed the required standard of competence and familiarity with the process for feathering and restarting an engine on the B-17. You have completed this training mission successfully. Excellent. So let's move on to the second example. So in this second example of training mission number 3, we're actually going to do everything from the internal view. And the reason for that is because some of the steps that were missing from the first example can only be completed by using the controls available on the instrument panel. So we're going to go to the instrument view for the pilot first of all by pressing the I key. And again, before we go into manual mode, we're going to make sure that the throttle control is set to around 2/3. And looking at my throttle control, it's around that mark. So now I'm going to press the M key to go into manual mode. I'm going to pull back slightly on my joystick just to maintain level flight. Now the first step will be the same as before, so we're going to press the Q and S key to shut down engine number 1. And we can monitor the manifold pressure for that engine up here as we see it beginning to shut down. And we need to make sure that we now push our joystick to the right to compensate for the loss of power on the left hand side of the B-17. Now one of the steps that was missing from the first example was to actually isolate the fuel to engine number 1 by turning on this fuel cutoff switch. So I'm going to left click on that switch now to do that. And now I'm ready to feather the engine. So I'm going to press the feather button here, but you could just as well press the Q followed by the D key on your keyboard. Now the last step of this procedure is to actually close your cowl flaps. If we hover over the cowl flap switch for engine number 1 here, it's showing 25% open. Now that's causing an unnecessary drag on the B-17, seeing as the engine is shut down. So we're going to right click on that to close the cowl flaps for engine number 1. So now we'll just pop to the outside view just to check that everything is satisfactory. So let's do F2 very quickly followed by the M key. And we'll just change the viewpoint, and that's looking good. The engine's shut down and can quite clearly see that the props are feathered there. So let's go back to the internal view by doing F1 and then M again very quickly. F1, M. So now we're ready to actually reverse the process. So first of all, we defeather or unfeather the engine by pressing the feather button here. And the prop outside will now be windmilling. And we can just very quickly check that by doing F2 and M. And there you go, the prop there is windmilling now. So F1 and M to go back to the inside view. So now we're going to open the cowl flaps in preparation for engine start. So we'll just open them to maybe about 20%. There we go. We now need to turn fuel back onto engine number 1 by left clicking on it. And then we need to right click on one of the engine controls. Because we've been playing around with the cowl flaps and the fuel cutoff switch, we won't be able to restart the engine using the AI if we don't allow the AI to have engine control. So I'm going to right click on the turbo control handle here. And nothing happens to start with, but without that critical step, the Q followed by A key to start an engine will not work. So now we've done that, we'll just do Q followed by A to tell it to go through the engine start process. And we'll just go back to the eye view there for the instrument view. And there we go, the engine has kicked back into gear. We'll very quickly go to the exterior view. And there we go. So you can see the engine was running in that short snippet of the exterior view. And if we go to the mission debriefing, congratulations, we've been successful. So I hope that's helped. That's filled in some of the gaps. Now in the final example, I'm actually going to go through a fully manual process for feathering and restarting the engine. In this third and final example of feathering and restarting engine number 1, we're going to step up the difficulty by following a completely manual procedure via a checklist using the controls available from the pilot's instrument view. The reason for following this procedure instead of the engine shortcut keys is firstly for the immersive nature that this brings to the game, which is something that I very much enjoy. And secondly, if you have the game's general difficulty settings set to high, in which case engine damage modelling is turned on, then following this procedure eliminates the risk that a poor AI may cause damage to the engines for these activities. Now in the following procedure, I'll do each step relatively slowly for demonstration purposes. In reality, when flying missions, if you need to shut down, feather or restart an engine, then you'll want to complete these steps much more quickly. So let's get started. First of all, we'll press the I key to go to the pilot's instrument view. Then before we do anything else, we need to check that our throttle control is preset to around 2/3. And just looking at mine, we're in the right position. Now we can take control away from the AI by pressing the M key, immediately followed by pulling slightly back on the joystick to maintain level flight. Now the first step in shutting down engine number 1 is to turn off the turbo, and we do this by left clicking on the turbo control handle here and pushing it fully away from us. And we'll see a corresponding loss in manifold pressure, aka power output, from the left hand side of the plane. Now the next step is to reduce the throttle to a minimum, and we do that by left clicking on the throttle and pulling it all the way towards us, and we'll see a further loss in power output from engine number 1, aka a further drop in manifold pressure. Now the next step is to fully shut down engine number 1 by left clicking on the mixture control handle, the fuel mixture control handle, left clicking on it and pushing it all the way away from us. And we can see engine number 1 has now completely shut down. Then the next step is to completely isolate the fuel supply from engine 1 by left clicking on the fuel cutoff switch to turn it on, as in it turns on the fuel cutoff. And then we need to reduce the pitch on the propellers by moving the pitch control handle to the low pitch setting by pulling it all the way up to the top. And now what that will have done is we're now in a position where the propeller is windmilling outside. We'll have a very quick look at that. And we can see it windmilling away there. So we'll just go back inside F1 and M. And we now need to feather the engine by pressing the feather button here, F1. And we're just going to pop back outside now to make sure that the engine is feathered and that propeller is no longer rotating. Now as it's no longer rotating, we can complete the next step. It's critical that the rotation has stopped before you do that step, or this next step. So F1 and M, and the next step is to actually turn the magneto off to engine 1, and that isolates the electrical supply to the ignition. And then we're now going to do the final step, which is to close the cowl flaps, so we reduce the drag that the open cowl flaps will have been causing. And that's it. At this stage in a mission, you would now trim the controls as necessary to maintain level flight. So that's us halfway through the procedure. We can now restart the engine. So we're going to restart it first of all in reverse by unfeathering the engine by clicking on the feather button, and then moving the prop pitch control back down to high pitch, so we're pulling that all the way to the bottom again. We're now going to open the cowl flaps slightly, probably to about 20%, to roughly what the other ones are, 25%. So there we go, the cowl flaps are now open again. We can turn the magneto on, and we can switch off the fuel cutoff switch so that fuel is being supplied to the engine again. And we're just going to check that we are windmilling outside now, because that's fairly critical. So we're just going to F2 and M, and yes, we can see we're windmilling away there. So F1 and M to pop back inside. So now we're going to move the fuel cutoff, we're going to move the fuel mixture control handle and bring it forward again to actually push fuel into the engine. And because it's already windmilling, the engine will actually kick into life immediately. So I'm just going to pull that forward, and you can immediately see power is being reapplied from engine number 1. And now the final step is I'm just going to right click on any one of the engine 1 control handles here to hand control of the engine management aspects of that engine back to the AI. And there we go, and you can see now that the manifold pressure has been brought up and it's reached the same as the other engines. So that should be it. We'll just check in the mission debriefing to make sure that we were successful. Yay, congratulations. So that's it. They're the 3 examples that I wanted to give. I hope that they have been useful for you. If they have, let me know in the comment section below. If they haven't, if I've missed something or said something incorrectly, please comment and let me know. That would be great to hear back from you. I always love reading your comments. It's really insightful to see what you've got to say, so thank you. If you like the video, please click on that like, thumbs up, and if you aren't already subscribed, please subscribe. There's more to come. So thank you very much for watching, folks, and take care. Bye-bye.